This was interesting because what they're saying is our customers have been working through inventories, but there are signs that that kind of glut or downturn that people are calling it, there might be a different trajectory on the other side.
Yeah, I think the way to sort of look at this, to frame this, is things aren't going to get that much worse. You've got to bear in mind this is a company that is on course to have its worst ever net loss. In terms of revenue, it's half the size of where it was last year. So this isn't a victory parade by any stretch, but if you believe that the chip industry is on this long-term growth path, then you're looking for points like this where things aren't going to get that much worse.
The editors of Bloomberg Opinion wrote an editorial in the last 24 hours about the CHIPS Act and the money that is being lined up from the public sector to onshore manufacturing capacity in this country. The conclusion that they reach is that actually it's a plan that's racing towards failure. They talk about red tape. They talk about the time it actually takes to set up a manufacturing facility from scratch when it comes to chip fabrication. Ironically, when you spoke to the Micron CEO last night, he is kind of asking for the opposite to increase capacity. He's saying we and our peers need to cut down our production right now. Explain that one to us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of really, really important things at play here. The chip industry is as old as I am, which is pretty old, right? Throughout its history,
your words,
economic forces have determined whether you build a plant, whether it makes sense to build a plant, whether you put capacity online. Now we've got government saying, hey, here's a check, build a plant here, that's what we want. So the concern there is that we'll have this systemic overbuild. Micron was saying was a bit more short-term, which is saying, look, we can all get back to profitability, we can all make money if we all stop putting less silicon into the front of these production lines. That's a great idea, and it's certainly, there's some evidence that that has happened, but really the sort of the thing that wasn't said directly was that Samsung, the biggest part of the memory chip industry, hasn't been doing that. So the outlook for profitability there is still a little bit dim.
Outlook for profitability. I'm looking at the shares. We're higher by around 5.5%. So positive reaction. This kind of terminal chart tells the story, though, that if you look at the sort of deficit that Micron faces this year, this is a big hit to profit, a big loss going back to the 80s. Yeah. Why has that happened?
It's a memory chip industry. This is the most brutal part.
DRAM and NAND.
Exactly, the storage basically in your mobile devices and your computers. The problem that Micron has and all of the other memory chip makers have is it's a commodity, right? You can buy these things in these exchanges. You know what the price is. What happens when you have a glut is you end up making chips and then you have to go out and sell them for less than it costs you to make them, and that's where Micron is.
Yeah, I mean, that chart says it all, really. That, you know, the legs kind of taken out from under them. Just very quick final, Ian, we've just got a few seconds. End markets. Basically, this is about smartphones. The data center business bottomed out in fiscal second quarter. What are the broad hopes for the smartphone market in the second half of this year?
Yeah, basically that it's not as bad as it was. And Micron gave us a picture that said maybe smartphones aren't going to collapse as badly as we'd feared. And also maybe PCs won't be as badly as we'd feared.
We've had Micron. Everyone is over the moon with NVIDIA. NVIDIA can do no wrong as far as sell-side analysts at least are concerned. Why do people think that NVIDIA is going to be the main beneficiary from investment in artificial intelligence?
Because so far they have been. So far they've
Mechanically, how does that work? What is it that's exciting?
Well, the workloads that you need to run an AI system, to have these recommendation engines, basically reward the ability to do multitasking, to do parallel processing. NVIDIA's processors do that arguably better than anybody else, and it's sold that story very well.